Students from Manurewa High School, and it's lovely to have you here. Councillor Philippaina is particularly excited and we'll be hearing from our students soon. Welcome to our elected members who are here and all our staff. So we will make a start. We've sort of got a rough quorum, some of whom are still getting coffee, and just to let people know how today will work. So we're going to have public forum first. We'll hear from our 5G people, and then we'll hear from Manurewa, and then we'll start into the agenda. I'm not thinking that the agenda hopefully will be too long today, because I know everyone's really busy, so we'll crack through it. We do have a workshop after the meeting, again on the kaipara and the water quality and treaty settlement issues and the kaipara. So hoping to get through that, maybe a quick break for lunch, then the workshop, and hoping to complete everything by about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So hopefully that works for everybody. So I'll declare the meeting open, and we've got apologies from Councillor Bartley. I think, Bartley, Stewart and Young for lateness, Councillor Sayers for absence, and Councillor Collins and Walker for early departure. So just needing to check how early, before 12? Yes. Okay. Yeah, no, we'll be. I think we'll be done, Councillor. Okay, I'm happy to move those. Councillor Philippaina, second. Oh, and Mayor Goff, I think people will be aware of the chaos down at the waterfront, and I know Mayor Goff is just with us very briefly, and then we'll be going down to deal with the emergency that we are facing down there. Yeah, and our thoughts to our port workers and people down on the waterfront who are dealing with that. Please pass on our best wishes. So let's make a start. I would like to invite, hang on, declarations of interest. Any issues that arise, just raise them as we go, and I'll move the minutes of the 10th of July. If someone would like to second that. Councillor Casey. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, we've got, we'll actually do it round the other way too, on the run sheet. So I'm going to invite, in the first instance, Laurie Ross and Citizens for 5G to join us. And just while Laurie makes her way up, just to let councillors and members know, we also had an email from the Waiheke Local Board asking a series of questions and raising some issues. Sharon also texted me today with some questions. Because this isn't on the agenda, we don't have our staff here to answer questions, but what I've recommended is that we take the issues from today that have been raised, we take the questions again from the Waiheke Local Board, and we will send back whatever answers are needed to anyone who requires them. So Laurie, the next 5 minutes are all yours. Warm welcome.
Madam Chair, Auckland City Councillors, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the concerned citizens for 5G-free Auckland, New Zealand, Aotearoa. So you're wondering, why halt 5G in Auckland and New Zealand? The main reason is because we love life on Earth, and we want to protect it for humanity. And because we do not consent to the 5G technological control of our lives. And because there is a significant body of scientific medical research that shows 5G wireless radio frequency electromagnetic radiation threatens the health of people and the environment. The high-density 5G antennas are planned for every lamppost 2020, plus thousands of space satellites bombarding everyone 24/7 through the 5G smart devices that will dominate our lives. The health dangers include damage to DNA, disruption of neurological, endocrine, and reproductive systems, plus increasing diabetes, cardiac, skin, and eye problems, as well as cancer. Is faster internet worth the increasing costs to health and well-being? The environment threats include harm to trees from pulsating short millimeter waves, plus the trees will be cut down as they block transmission. Pollinating insects and bees will die from the resonance effect, with terrible consequences on agriculture and wildlife. The climate emergency crisis will be exacerbated out of all proportion because the 5G uses vast amounts of electricity, producing more CO2 emissions and electrosmog pollution. The smart devices will be controlled, or they will control us in this Internet of Things, the artificial intelligence. Should we allow this like sheep, or should we try to prevent it as human beings? 5G is market-driven by telco companies for profit, permitted by government regulations without informed public consent. This is a violation of human rights, freedom, and democracy. There has been no biological safety testing on this new tech, and the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Standards are no protection on community health and the environment. Many cities are halting 5G because of this concern. The Environment Minister of Brussels, Céline Flemont, says, "The people of Brussels are not guinea pigs whose health I can sell at a profit." Yeah. The New Zealand Ministries of Health, Environment and Broadcasting, when questioned, reply to all of our letters that the ICNIRP standards for New Zealand are enough, and they are to reassure and dismiss public concerns. As you will see in the correspondence item number 15 between Councillor Penny Hulse and Broadcasting Minister Chris Fafoy. However, we must question the New Zealand regulations. Is 3kHz to 300GHz, which is claimed to be safe, is it safe? And is it being disregarded in terms of, is this the fact being disregarded that scientific studies and other country standards show these levels of radiation are too high? We must remember that asbestos, DDT, and tobacco were once deemed safe by industry or those with a vested interest. So I'm going to ask to table the letter that I have written in reply to Chris Fafoy's statement of so-called safety, and I would like to table that for this meeting, as well as an article by Sue Pocket, leading academic, in her article to Magnetochemistry Journal, May 2019, Conflicts of Interest and Misleading Statements in Official Reports about the Health Consequences of Radiofrequency Radiation and Some New Measures of Exposure Levels. Thus, let me conclude. The concerned citizens for 5G-free Auckland and New Zealand, Aotearoa, request Auckland Council to invoke the precautionary principle to halt the rollout of 5G electromagnetic microwave frequencies for telecommunications in Auckland, or at least declare some 5G-free zones, or keep your 5G in a contained area. 2, organize an Auckland Council Commission for Health and Safety Assessment of 5G wireless tech, which establishes guidelines for safe G telecommunications policy to protect community and the environment. 3, call for the New Zealand government to declare a 5G moratorium until independent New Zealand scientific research is done on the cumulative biological effects of 5G EMFs on human health and the environment, and request an inquiry or parliamentary select committee process. And one last thing, I ask you to support the 5G international appeal to the UN and World Health Organization from scientists and doctors calling for a moratorium of 5G on Earth and in space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Margaret. Now, we've probably got time for a couple of questions. Councillor Walker.
So one of the things that you mentioned was the stand that they've taken in Belgium. I'm making the assumption that that stand was informed, that is, it was based on some information and the like. Are you able to share that with us, Laurie?
Just that what I've referred to here, and I would actually ask to table this as well. This is the international appeal to stop 5G on Earth and in space. 187 countries as of June 2019. And it's like, this is the kind of documentation that I know that Céline Flamand in Brussels and many other cities, Rome, and many cities in which they are putting the halt. And that's what we ask for in our petition, which is a national petition to government, for a halt on 5G until that independent scientific study is conducted on the long-term, cumulative biological effects of the 5G technology, radiation frequency. And this is long-term, because when you think of children and how many of them are getting onto every possible device at an early age, and you think, what kind of an effect is that having on their body? It's slow. It's called ELF, extremely low frequency, and it's non-thermal.
The other question I've got, and you might answer this as best you can, is I'm making the assumption that the 5G penetrates buildings. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're inside or outside, the 5G is going to get you. Is that correct? If it's in the vicinity?
Yeah, and I think that's what's driven me back out here, because I can't hide. I can't say, oh, well, I'll just stay in my little forest in Titirangi. Because once they put those antennas on all the street lamps, and once they send up those 20,000 rockets of satellites, and you can imagine the carbon emissions for climate emergency. But in addition, what effect it's going to have on the magnetosphere and the ionosphere, but on you and I, in our safe little houses, I'm sorry, it's not going to be safe anymore.
And the street lamps that you're talking about are street lamps effectively on council property.
Well, they're up and down every street, aren't they? Yes. And I've already seen they've got the little yogurt pots on the top of them already. So you're getting it, it's not instead of 3 or 4G, it's on top of. So you can see the transmission is going to be going like that. And you won't actually see it or feel it unless you're electromagnetically sensitive, as they say. But it will be there. And one has to question, how much is too much? And where do we draw the line? You know, we all love our computers and our cell phones, but how much is too much? And where do we draw the line?
Thank you, Councillor. And remembering there's also many, many privately owned sites that have antennae on them as well. Councillor Newman.
Good morning. 2 questions from me. Firstly, without really having as much knowledge on this as I feel I probably should in response to your presentation this morning, could you tell me what relationship does this have to the National Environmental Standards on Telecommunications Facilities, and is this regulated by that particular standard? That's the first question.
Yes, well, the Ministry of Health Interagency Committee on Health Effects of Non-Ionizing Fields is responsible to, and with the Ministry of the Environment, they make the regulations. But this interagency committee is really echoing or confined to the belief system. It's kind of an ideology, or it's a faith, a blind faith in the ICNIRP, International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection Standards, of 1998. So they're really outdated standards. This is pre-5G. And so the fact that all of our New Zealand regulations are based on this, and as I quoted before, the 3KHZ, I'm not technical, but when you do all the study, up to 300 GHZ is allowed in New Zealand, which is so high. And in the regulations, it says, oh, it's 50 times lower. I mean, you can say that that we can handle 50 times more radiation, or what they measure is 50 times lower than that standard. I hope it is. But the reality is, once the 5G comes, I doubt it will be lower. It'll be this standard. And this is the standard that it says is the one that was proven in 2011 as having the probable carcinogenic rating, and then since then it's moved up to proven carcinogenic. But these are some of the regulations or tests that aren't being considered, it seems to me, or not being treated seriously enough by our ministry yet.
Did you have a follow-up question, Councillor?
Yeah, I do have. I mean, I'd be interested in the relationship between technology and carcinogenic effects. My final question, I suppose, then, is looking at the technology. Is the technology the cause, or is the technology the consequence? Is it the cause of the issue, or is it the consequence of human behaviour and choice that we exercise in our lives around the use of cell phones, laptops, Surface Pros, other technology that benefits from that infrastructure? Is your concern about these devices installed, or is your fundamental concern about the way in which we live our lives?
Well, I thank you for that question, because I do think the major concern is actually with children, all the grandchildren, all the schools, the children from an early age in the home, because we're just led to believe, to be complacent, or think that there's no harm. And we won't see it, like asbestos and tobacco and DDT. We probably won't see that huge increase in cancer and these other diseases that I've named for maybe 10 years. But already we know we've got a terrible cancer problem, and it's already being predicted to grow. But is it about just more pharmaceuticals, or is it about looking at the causes and reducing, if not eliminating, some causes? But yes, I'd say yes, we can still have our cell phones, but just using them in a more conscious way, and probably reducing our dependency. So in other words, you do need a cell phone if you really need to communicate with someone, but do you need all those apps, and do you really need every Netflix to come down 100 times faster? Do we really want the Internet of Things where your television talks to your toaster? I mean, really, how much do we really think we want and need? Do we need a driverless car? Most of us don't, but we are being programmed by Vodafone and by the television advertising that we want and need all this stuff. But I question that, and I think we all need to question it.
Horrible propaganda from the press, laxness from the government.
Councillor Newman. Now, would someone like to, I'm happy to move that we thank Laurie and her team. Seconded Councillor Cooper. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And Laurie, just to reassure you, we will keep you in the loop with any correspondence, and certainly some of the answers to the questions that have been raised by the Waiheke Local Board and yourself and your group. So we will keep you in the loop with that. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you
and
so much.
And thank you to everyone who's come along. I would now like to, I'd like to welcome our Manurewa High School students. And so please come and make yourselves at home. We've got quite a few seats, so there's many of the team that would like to come up, please do so. Thank you. And Tamsin, are you going to introduce the item? Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, maloli lei. My name is Tamsin Matchett. I am here in my capacity as the project lead for our civics education program, Youth Voting, Ngā Pōtia Taiohi. I know it is extremely unusual to have a staff member introduce public input, but I did want to give some context and background to the visit today from our students from Manurewa High School. We have been engaging with these students for several months now as part of our program. What we cover is what local government is, what services Auckland Council delivers to its communities, our co-governance arrangement, how to have your say, and how decision-making works in our governance model. As part of this, the students wanted to come here today to participate so that they are actively having their say as relevant to what they are learning in this program, but also to witness decision-making in action. So I would now like to introduce Lena, Almira and Harleen from Manurewa High School for their public input presentation.
Introduce ourselves individually. Hello, my name is Harleen and I'm from Manurewa High School.
Hi, my name's Almira and I'm also from Manurewa High School.
Hi, my name is Lena and I'm also from Manurewa High School.
So our presentation is regarding waste management in Manurewa. So this is mainly targeting the lack of community recycling facilities. So Manurewa is home to a diverse range of people. It's home to 2 libraries, 4 community centres, 4 leisure centres, and 2 public swimming pools. Yet we lack a community recycling centre. Manurewa was also home to the Auckland Botanic Gardens, the historic Nathan Homestead, Totara Park, and other cultural and environmental facilities. Yet once again, we do not have a recycling facility to clean up the messes that destroy our gardens and homesteads. However, Manurewa isn't a clean, green place as we'd like it to be. It is home to rubbish and illegal dumping, and this could be solved via a community recycling centre.
So our objectives and plans for Manurewa is that we want to educate and empower the people, specifically on environmental issues to make them more environmentally conscious. So the citizens of Manurewa deserve a more efficient waste reduction and management service to try and mitigate the negative effects of illegal rubbish dumping and all the litter that we have in our area. We already have a lack of accessibility to environmental products, so alternatives such as bamboo toothbrushes, maybe bamboo cotton buds, we don't really have the access to that because most of the shops that sell those things are far away in places like Ponsonby where people can afford that stuff. So by also not having this alternative, the litter problem is worse. So we really think that we need an effective waste management system. Because it becomes very difficult for the citizens of Manurewa, especially since we're from a lower socioeconomic environment, to try and be more environmentally conscious.
Manurewa High School, just talking about it since we're from there, it's the largest school in the area, and one of the main things we focus on is our leadership model. The reason we're here is because we're all from councils. I am from the Civics Council, Almira and Annalena are from the Environmental Council. We all feel that there are many pressing issues in our communities, and not just Manurewa, because one thing we found out in our research was that the closest recycling facility was in Waiuku, which is really far away from most towns. So we kind of wanted to use our own leadership model to really influence change and be able to talk here today. So at our school, we use Te Ara o Tāwhaki, which is 4 Māori values. So taha whānau, taha tinana, taha hinengaro, and taha wairua. So without all 4 of these walls, these 4 values, we cannot function as human beings. And the environment is one of these main walls. If our environment is horrible, if we cannot live in it, if we cannot thrive, then we as people cannot function.
So last Thursday, our environmental council at school, we went for a cleanup at our local memorial, and even though we just covered one corner of the park, we picked up bags and bags of rubbish. And it was also quite nice to see that people from our school decided to join in and grab some rubbish themselves, which was a big help. But the main problem was is that there was no rubbish bins in the area we're picking up. So of course people are lazy and do not want to go to a rubbish bin that's quite far away. So just drop it into that area. It's not great. and our community recycling centers. So we strongly believe that for Manurewa to become a more environmentally sustainable suburb, we need to have easier access to community recycling centers. Right now, the closest council recycling center is at Waiuku, which is 38 kilometers away from Manurewa. It's quite far, as a society, we have developed a disposable attitude to waste we produce. So the people do not see their waste as their problem. Once it's out of their doors, it's just someone else's problem, right? We need to change that mindset and make it so everyone's more conscious of the waste they're producing and where that waste is going. And through community recycling centers, we will get more involved with our rubbish and becoming more conscious about how we produce our waste and where it is going and the impact it has on the environment.
So some other ideas that we had. Workshops about recycling and waste management for families to attend, promotional videos on TV, whether this is like advertising or on the news maybe, and primary and secondary school educational programs and workshops. So this is specifically for school children, since we're at an age where we're learning, so might as well learn about how to manage our waste properly and reduce our environmental impact. Any other slide? Yeah.
So overall, we'd just like to urge the committee here today to think about recycling centres in lower socioeconomic suburbs, because if this issue is solved at its core, then we won't spiral into complete and utter destruction, which is what we're going towards. So yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I know there'll be a couple of questions. I just want to get in first and say thank you so much. This is an issue that's probably the closest to my heart when it comes to environmental issues, and we have an extraordinary waste team at council. We've got an intention to have as many of our community recycling centres up and running as possible, and we are certainly budgeting for those. And I think you are absolutely on the button that they need to be in areas where people struggle to manage their own rubbish, and those are the communities that we need to be supporting. It's working fantastically well out west. It'll be great to really see a thriving recycling effort down south. So there will be questions. I'll go first to Councillor Newman, then I've got Councillor Watson, then Councillor Filipaina.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the presentation. Quick preamble, the Memorial Park project is the local board's one local initiative to transform that, and some of the infrastructure that you're talking about would be intrinsic to that. So I agree with you, and more power to your elbow for advocacy. With respect to the community recycling centre, I agree with you in advocating for that. I think that there are two things beyond the recycling centre model which need to be factored in our part of Auckland. Number one, the centre needs to also be a transfer station for rubbish that can't be recycled to take it to the landfill, because I think there needs to be a convenient way for people to be able to address rubbish that they can't put out of the gate. And secondly, I have a preference for the council to be heavily intervening here to drive down gate price, to ensure that people can afford to access the centre irrespective of their financial circumstances. Would you be comfortable if the recycling centre included those aspects? Because that's quite important. It makes the centre more than a recycling centre. It makes it a place where a lot of the product that's going to go there can't be recycled, but it provides a convenience. And it does mean it would probably cost ratepayers more in order to ensure that there is the ability to access that centre irrespective of your financial circumstances. Have you any comment on that? So I get a bit long-winded and woolly at times, but
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that would be also a good idea to also involve all those other aspects in a community recycling centre. And yeah.
If such a centre was required and it needed to be more land parcels, if the land available was not necessarily right in the middle of Manurewa, but was maybe in a semi-rural location not far from it, would that be an appropriate trade-off if we were able to get all of those features?
I mean, there's no land.
As long as the place where the facility is close by to the residents, I believe that would be okay. However, you would want to make sure that the land you are using isn't troubling others and causing issues.
It's a very wise answer, that one. Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on your excellent presentation. You're very fine ambassadors for your school. My question is not so much about the recycling, it's about Manurewa High School. You guys are about year 10, is it right? Yeah, okay. You mentioned you've got these community civics environment councils, and you've outlined the fine work that's been going on. What has been the effect of your councils on your schoolmates across the school? I think from year 9 to year 13. What is this sort of presence and these councils having on your school generally?
So because anyone can apply to be in the councils, I think it encourages people to step up into leadership roles. A lot of schools traditionally have head girl, head boy, prefects, and a lot of people may think that that's out of their league, stuff like that, so they're not going to go for it. But with the council model, it really encourages anyone and everyone to go for it and step up and be a school leader, just a leader.
And do you find these sorts of issues and concerns then, getting a bit of traction in the school? Because normally you'd think, well, people maybe wouldn't be too worried about recycling centres or cleaning up. Are you finding you're getting a bit of cut through with your peers?
Yeah, we definitely have like an influence on the people at our school. We talk at assemblies, make videos, things like that. So it does definitely cause people to talk about it and sometimes come up to you and say, oh, I saw you said this, da, da, da. And yeah, that's true.
Tēnā koutou katoa e ngā mihi kia koutou mō te kōrero. So look, I just want to acknowledge your talk to us. And my question is around your objective in your first page, which is to educate and empower the people of Manurewa so that they are more environmentally active and aware citizens. My question is, have you approached the Manurewa local board for any funding that could allow you, your school, to actually put in to practice what your objective is, as in to educate the community? Because listening to you and I have no doubt at all that your fellow students know what you're talking about. So have you approached the local board for funding to assist you in getting and educate our community out there?
As of now, we have not contacted the local board, but that is mainly because haven't had the time to talk to them, and we've been working with Sarah and Tamsin. So this issue kind of came up pretty recently because we haven't really researched community centres, or I myself have not. But we will be taking this to the next stage and talking to the local board on possible events and educational workshops we can do with them.
Chair, just supplementary to that. Look, did you know that you have your two councillors here, and did you know that I'm sure they will be very supportive of any funding application? Thank you. Did you know that?
Yes, we did.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Filipina. And just to add to that, we've also got a fantastic waste team who are well set up. Their passion is to go out to community, to schools, to actually work on exactly what you're talking about. And we'd love to make sure that they kind of wrap some of that support around where you're going with this. Councillor Casey, last question.
I don't have a question, so I'm not going to dress it up as a question. I just have a comment. Just to say, recently I went to the local government conference in Wellington. It's the first time I've been to one. And the presentation that stood out for me was the two young women from Strike for Schools, and they were sensational. And it's because of that I want to congratulate you for your presentation today. Our future's in great hands. When I was your age, I wasn't thinking about the future. I was thinking about myself, my family, and my school. And yeah, thank you. We've been trying to get a recycling centre in the centre of Auckland. 3 boards, Albert Eden Roskill, Fo and Waitemata for the last 10 years. We still haven't done it, and we just love one. So I share your pain. But you just didn't cover recycling. You covered littering, you covered people's habits, and you care. Oh, that's all. Thank you.
I just wonder, Councillor Newman, Philippina, just think, Councillor Sir John, maybe Councillor Sir John might like to move the thanks, and Councillor Sir Daniel Newman might like to second. I can do anything now that I've only got 7 weeks left. I can bestow titles and so I think warmly moved and seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And with the support of the extraordinary Tamsin, I think you can make good things happen, because exactly as Councillor Kathy Casey said, if we haven't got our next generation caring about the environment, we're in deep, deep trouble. So thank you. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay. And as I said, there is a stage at which sometimes the meeting just feels like you might want to do something else. Feel free to go. We won't be hurt. Some of us may also feel like leaving as well, but we won't. So kia ora and thank you. Right. Thank you, darling. Hope that the filming worked well. I was just reminding people all of this is filmed, and you can actually, if the phones haven't worked that well, you can download it all from Council